Chapter 1. First Encounter. In this city where desires and dreams intertwine, the annual meeting of the advertising company is in full swing. The gorgeous crystal chandeliers cast brilliant light, making the dance floor bright and dreamy. Madeline stood lightly on the edge of the dance floor, the glass of champagne in her hand sparkling under the light, just like her mood that occasionally ripples under her calm appearance at this moment. The black evening dress she wore was simple yet elegant, outlining her figure just right, and her casually tied hair added a bit of gentle temperament to her. Although she is just an ordinary copywriter in this advertising circle full of talents, the wisdom and gentleness she exudes seem to have an invisible magic that allows her to always stand out from the crowd. Just then, a slight commotion broke the original quiet rhythm of the dance floor. Nicholas, a young executive with a great reputation in the field of science and technology, stepped into the venue like a dazzling star. He was tall and straight, and his well-tailored suit fit his figure perfectly. He took every step confidently and calmly, and exuded an innate charm in his gestures, attracting the attention of people around him. His deep eyes were like the cold stars twinkling in the night sky, sweeping through the crowd one by one and finally, as if drawn by some mysterious force, fixed on Madeline. "Hi, I'm Nicholas." He raised the corners of his mouth, revealing a charming smile, strode to Madeline and extended his hand elegantly. The voice was low and magnetic, as if carrying a trace of electricity, instantly touching Madeline's heartstrings. Madeline subconsciously raised her head, and the moment her eyes met his, it seemed as if a warm current surged into her heart, and her cheeks flushed slightly. Nicholas' eyes were as deep as an endless ocean, so deep that people couldn't help but want to sink into them. "I'm Madeline, nice to meet you." She tried to make her voice sound steady, stretched out her hand and shook his gently. At that moment she seemed to feel the warmth from the other's palm, and an inexplicable heartbeat spread quietly in her heart. Nicholas's smile became brighter and brighter like the warm spring sun. "I've noticed you a long time ago, you look different." His words were full of unquestionable confidence, as if he was stating an established fact. Madeline was slightly stunned, and then she showed a gentle smile. She was not used to such straightforward and warm praise, but for some reason, it made her feel a different kind of comfort when it came from Nicholas' mouth. Afterwards, the two naturally talked, and the topic was like a gurgling stream, from busy work to colorful life, from their unique hobbies to dreams full of longing for the future. Nicholas's conversation was full of humor and wit, and those witty words were like shining sparks, constantly igniting the passion in Madeline's heart, making her involuntarily deeply attracted. Madeline's kindness, her unique insights into work, and her outstanding talent also brightened Nicholas' eyes, as if he had found a buried pearl in the vast crowd. As the melodious music slowly sounded, Nicholas gentlemanly extended his hand and invited Madeline to dance. Madeline nodded slightly and put her hand in his palm. The two stepped into the dance floor, and in an instant, everything around them seemed to have turned into a blurred background. The lights on the dance floor were like smart elves, spinning and jumping around them, and the whole world seemed to have stopped turning at this moment, leaving only each other. Nicholas's strong hand tightly grasped Madeline's waist, and the other hand gently held her hand, and the two bodies swayed lightly with the rhythm of the music. "Madeline, I think we get along very well." Nicholas leaned over slightly and whispered in her ear, and the warm breath gently brushed her ears, making her heart tremble suddenly. Madeline raised her head and met his affectionate gaze. An indescribable, wonderful feeling surged in her heart. She nodded vigorously, her voice soft but firm. "Me too, Nicholas." At this moment she seemed to be in a dream that was too beautiful to be true. She didn't realize that the gears of fate had quietly begun to turn, and would soon bring her a journey of ups and downs in life. Chapter 2. Flash Marriage. Since their first meeting at the annual meeting, Nicholas has launched a fierce pursuit of Madeline like a storm. Every morning, before the first ray of sunshine completely dispels the coolness of the city, Madeline will receive a bouquet of beautiful flowers. The rich fragrance of flowers fills her office, bringing her a good mood for the day. And Nicholas' invitations are like snowflakes falling one after another. The dinner invitations were always unique. Sometimes they were at a niche Western restaurant hidden in a busy street corner, with soft candlelight illuminating their faces and a romantic atmosphere flowing freely in the air. Sometimes they were at a lively street barbecue stall, where they laughed and talked in the smoke and felt the most simple happiness. On weekends, Nicholas made careful arrangements to accompany Madeline to watch those niche movies full of artistic atmosphere. The two were immersed in the wonderful world constructed by the movies. Occasionally they could understand each other's thoughts by exchanging glances. Or strolling in the corridors of the museum, Nicholas patiently explained to Madeline the stories behind each exhibit. His profound knowledge made Madeline's admiration for him even deeper. Every move of his was like a delicate spring rain, silently but deeply nourishing Madeline's heart, making her immersed in this unprecedented happiness, as if the whole person was surrounded by a sweet breath. On a starry night, after a warm and romantic dinner, Nicholas and Madeline walked side by side on the quiet street. The moonlight was like water, sprinkled on them, outlining two slender shadows. Nicholas suddenly stopped, turned around and looked at Madeline seriously, with a fiery light flashing in his eyes, which seemed to ignite people. "Madeline, I like you, really like you." His voice was low and firm, and it was as clear as a bell in Madeline's ears in the silent night. Madeline's heart skipped a beat. She raised her head and met Nicholas's affectionate eyes. At that moment she seemed to hear the sound of her heartbeat like thunder, and she never thought that she would fall into a passionate relationship so quickly. However, facing Nicholas's sincere confession, she could not deny the strong feelings she had for him in her heart. His gentleness and thoughtfulness, his careful care, had already made her fall unconsciously. "Nicholas, I like you too." Her voice was soft and trembling, and tears of happiness flashed in her eyes. Under the moonlight, the tears were like sparkling gems. The relationship between the two was like a blazing fire, heating up quickly. One night less than a month after they met, Nicholas took Madeline to the highest observation deck in the city. The breeze blew away Madeline's hair. In front of her, the whole city was brightly lit, like a dazzling galaxy. Nicholas slowly knelt on one knee, took out a delicate little box from his pocket and gently opened it. A dazzling diamond ring instantly caught Madeline's eyes. The diamond flashed dazzlingly under the light, just like their passionate love at the moment. "Madeline, marry me, I will spend my whole life loving and protecting you." Nicholas' voice was firm and powerful, as if he was announcing his deep affection for Madeline to the whole world. Madeline's tears burst out instantly. She never thought that she would stand at an important turning point in her life so quickly and was about to enter the palace of marriage. But looking at Nicholas' sincere eyes and feeling his full love, she couldn't refuse this affectionate invitation. "I do," she choked and answered, nodding vigorously. At that moment, the lights of the whole city seemed to cheer for their love, and the bright light illuminated their happy faces. Although their wedding was simple, it was full of warmth and sweetness. Relatives and friends gathered together to witness the happy moment of the couple. Nicholas's parents looked at the gentle and kind Madeline, their eyes full of love and satisfaction, as if they had found the most perfect daughter-in-law. And Madeline's family was also impressed by Nicholas's handsomeness and elegance, and praised the marriage of the two. The days after marriage are like a melodious pastoral song, sweet and peaceful. Nicholas took great care of Madeline. Every morning he would get up early to prepare a nutritious breakfast for Madeline and watch her enjoy it with satisfaction. At night he would hug Madeline tightly to sleep, letting her fall into a sweet dream in his warm embrace. They spent countless wonderful times together, strolling on the beach under the sunset, holding hands, leaving a string of happy footprints, or snuggling on the sofa in a warm home, sharing each other's joys and sorrows of the day. Madeline was immersed in this happy marriage life, like a happy little bird, but she didn't realize that behind this seemingly perfect life, a huge storm was quietly brewing, and the dark shadow was slowly approaching her. Chapter 3: Betrayal. The time after marriage was like a gurgling stream, peaceful and beautiful. Not long after, Madeline was surprised to find that she was pregnant. This news was like the first ray of warm sunshine in spring, instantly illuminating their world. Madeline and Nicholas were immersed in the great joy of becoming parents, and that joy was like mellow wine, making them intoxicated. Nicholas's care for Madeline reached the level of meticulousness. Every morning he would carefully accompany Madeline to the hospital for prenatal checkups, holding her hand tightly along the way, with tension and concern in his eyes, as if she was the most precious baby in the world. After returning home, he would plunge into the kitchen and carefully prepare nutritious food for Madeline. Every dish was full of his deep love for his wife and unborn child. "Madeline, you have worked hard, I will always be with you." Nicholas gently stroked Madeline's slightly bulging belly, his eyes full of affection and expectation, and the gentle movement seemed to be stroking the most precious treasure in the world. Madeline leaned in his arms, her heart full of happiness and peace of mind. She closed her eyes slightly, feeling the warmth, and whispered, "With you here, I'm not afraid of anything." In her heart, Nicholas is her most solid support and the guarantee of her happy life. However, fate showed its ferocious fangs at this seemingly beautiful moment. One night when Madeline was about to give birth, the rain outside the window was pattering, hitting the window, making a disturbing sound. Madeline had nothing to do, so she decided to tidy up Nicholas's study, wanting to make some warmer arrangements for this home that was about to welcome a new life. In the corner of the study, there was a cabinet that looked inconspicuous. When Madeline was tidying it up, she accidentally discovered a very hidden drawer at the bottom of the cabinet. A strong curiosity surged in her heart. After hesitating for a while, she slowly reached out and gently opened the drawer. In the drawer, an old mobile phone lay quietly. Madeline picked up the phone doubtfully, the screen lit up, and what came into view was the chat record from more than a year ago. She was just flipping through it casually, but as she read, the smile on her face froze instantly, replaced by a look of shock and disbelief. Her hands began to tremble uncontrollably, as if she was holding not a phone, but a bomb that could explode at any time. "I love you, but I'm afraid of pain and don't want to give birth." This was the message Lillian sent to Nicholas, and the lines of words were like sharp blades, piercing Madeline's heart. "Don't be afraid, you don't have to give birth." Nicholas's reply was concise and cold, and the indifferent tone made Madeline feel a chill to the bone. Lillian's doubts seemed to be Madeline's doubts at the moment, and she couldn't believe what she saw. "I'll find someone to help us give birth." Nicholas's words were like a bolt from the blue, completely shattering Madeline's vision of a better life. "Okay," Lillian's reply seemed to sprinkle salt on Madeline's wounded heart. Madeline's tears blurred her eyes instantly. She couldn't believe that her beloved husband, Nicholas, who had always been gentle and considerate to her, was still thinking about his white moonlight Lillian, and she was just a substitute for him to realize his childbirth plan. She felt as if she was in a cold abyss, surrounded by darkness and no light. She watched this conversation repeatedly, hoping that it was just a terrible nightmare, but the reality cruelly told her that all this was true. She felt dizzy and her legs were weak and she could hardly stand. She tried to take a deep breath and tried to calm herself down, but the pain in her heart was like a surging tide, hitting her reason wave after wave. Finally, she put the phone back in place with trembling hands, and staggered and left the study silently. Her heart was full of anger, sadness, and despair, and the complex emotions intertwined, making her feel extremely painful. She knew that her peaceful and beautiful life had been completely broken, and a thrilling storm was coming, and she had to face it bravely. Chapter 4: Revenge Plan. Madeline returned to the bedroom in a daze and fell on the bed. Tears poured out like a flood, soaking the pillow. She felt like she was betrayed by the whole world and deeply hurt by the people closest to her. Her heart was in pain. But in this endless pain, her eyes gradually became firm. She knew that now was not the time to immerse herself in sadness. She had to seek justice for herself and her unborn child and let those who hurt her pay the price. She suppressed her inner grief and began to think calmly about the revenge plan. She knew that in order to expose the ugly deeds of Nicholas and Lillian, it was far from enough to rely on that chat record. She needed more solid evidence to expose their evil deeds to the sun. So, like a cheetah lurking in the dark, she began to investigate quietly. First, she used her connections in the social circle to ask around for news about Lillian. Finally, with the help of her friends, she found Lillian's contact information. It turned out that Lillian was a freelancer who liked to share her life on social media and was very active. Madeline registered an anonymous account and carefully followed Lillian's every move. She was like an observer hiding in the dark, quietly waiting for her prey to reveal its flaws. A few days later, Madeline found a photo on Lillian's social media page. It was a photo of Lillian and Nicholas. The two people in the photo were smiling and looked very close. The caption was, "Best friends always support you." Madeline looked at the photo and a raging anger ignited in her heart. She knew that this must be a lie they made up to cover up the unbearable surrogacy plan. The corners of her mouth rose slightly, revealing a sneer. She knew that this photo would become an important chess piece in her revenge plan. Next, Madeline turned her target to Nicholas' company. She made full use of her work experience and connections in the advertising company, and through various secret channels, she obtained some internal documents of Nicholas' company with great difficulty. In the process of carefully studying these documents, she discovered an amazing secret. Nicholas' company was recently under investigation by the regulatory authorities for some unfair competition, but Nicholas had been secretly trying to cover up the truth and try to evade legal sanctions. This discovery gave Madeline a glimmer of hope in her heart. She knew that this would be a powerful weapon for her to fight Nicholas. Just as Madeline was fully devoted to collecting evidence, a familiar figure appeared in her life, Daniel. Daniel was Madeline's classmate in college and her best friend. During college, Daniel had been secretly in love with Madeline, but for various reasons he never had the courage to confess to her. When he learned that Madeline was getting married, although his heart was full of loss, he was still sincerely happy for her and only hoped that she could live a happy life. One night, Madeline was sitting alone at home, worrying about the evidence collected on the computer, and her cell phone suddenly rang. She picked up the phone and saw that it was Daniel calling. A complex emotion surged in her heart. After hesitating for a while, she answered the phone. "Hey Madeline, how are you doing recently? I heard that you are pregnant, congratulations." Daniel's voice came from the other end of the phone with familiar warmth and concern. When Madeline heard his voice, a warm current suddenly surged in her heart. The pain and grievances that had accumulated in her heart for these days seemed to have found an outlet for venting. "Daniel, thank you. But I'm in a bit of trouble now." Her voice was trembling a little. After hesitating for a moment, she decided to tell Daniel everything she had experienced. After listening to Madeline's story, Daniel was silent for a long time. There was only his heavy breathing on the other end of the phone. Finally he spoke, his voice firm and powerful. "Madeline, don't worry, I will help you. No matter what, I will not let you get hurt like this." At that moment, Madeline seemed to see a ray of light in the darkness. She knew that she was no longer alone. With a friend like Daniel by her side, she had the courage and strength to fight the enemy. Chapter 5. Daniel's counterattack. Daniel's appearance was like a timely rain, bringing great support and hope to Madeline, who was in desperate situation. He knew Nicholas's character very well, and fully understood the difficult situation Madeline was in at the moment. In his heart, Madeline has always been that kind and simple girl, and he would never allow anyone to hurt her. So he decided to step forward without hesitation to help Madeline expose Nicholas's ugly face and let the truth come to light. "Madeline, you need evidence, I will help you find it," Daniel said firmly, his eyes revealing an unquestionable determination. In the following days he made full use of his extensive connections in the advertising industry to inquire about the inside information of Nicholas' company. He was like a hound with a keen sense of smell, not letting go of any possible clues. After hard work he finally discovered that Nicholas' company did have a series of serious unfair competition behaviors. These behaviors not only violated business ethics, but also violated the bottom line of the law, and these problems have attracted the attention of regulatory authorities. Daniel realized that this information would become a powerful weapon to expose Nicholas, and he decided to sort out the information in detail to contribute to Madeline's revenge plan. However, Nicholas was not an ordinary person, and he soon noticed Daniel's actions. As an executive of a technology company, he has great power and abundant resources. He will never allow anyone to disrupt his plan and threaten his interests. So he used his power to instruct his men to spread all kinds of rumors in Daniel's company, maliciously slandering Daniel's reputation, trying to make Daniel isolated and helpless in the company and even lose his job. "Madeline, Nicholas is targeting me." Daniel told Madeline about his experience with a hint of anger and helplessness in his voice during a call. After hearing this, Madeline was filled with guilt, and her eyes were instantly wet. "Daniel, I'm sorry for getting you involved." Her voice was filled with deep self-blame. She felt that it was all because of herself that Daniel was implicated. "Don't say that, Madeline. I'm not helping you because you're my friend, but because what Nicholas did was wrong." He shouldn't treat you like this. Daniel said firmly, his voice full of the power of justice. He would never be intimidated by Nicholas's threats. On the contrary, it further stimulated his fighting spirit. Daniel began to fight back cleverly with his wisdom and rich experience in the advertising industry. He used his good relationship with the media to anonymously disclose some evidence of Nicholas' unfair competition to some influential media reporters. At the same time, he also posted some negative posts about Nicholas anonymously through social media, which aroused widespread attention and discussion among netizens. These news spread quickly on the internet like a spark, and more people began to pay attention to the problems of Nicholas. Nicholas's company's stock price began to fluctuate. The originally stable upward curve now seemed to have been hit by a storm and fell sharply. The company's shareholders began to question Nicholas's management ability, and there was a panic situation inside. Nicholas was extremely angry. He did not expect Daniel to have such great power to cause such an impact on his company. He decided to intensify his revenge on Daniel and even hired some criminals to try to threaten Daniel. However, Daniel was prepared. On the one hand, he strengthened his security measures, and on the other hand, he collected Nicholas's threatening behavior as new evidence. He knew that these evidences would further expose Nicholas's bad behavior and make his image in front of the public even worse. With Madeline's support, Daniel did not back down and continued to fight against Nicholas fiercely. A war without gunpowder intensified between the two. All this was just part of Madeline's revenge plan. The real storm was still behind. Chapter 6. The truth is revealed. The atmosphere at the press conference was tense and depressing, and the spotlights kept flashing as if countless eyes were watching the coming storm. Nicholas and Lillian sat in the front row. They pretended to be calm on the surface, but their slightly trembling hands exposed their inner tension and anxiety. Nicholas tried his best to keep his face calm, but his eyes revealed a trace of panic, and he wiped the cold sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief from time to time. Lillian held Nicholas's hand tightly, her nails almost digging into his skin, trying to draw a little strength from him, but her pale face showed her extreme fear. Madeline, dressed in a simple and solemn black suit, stood on the stage calmly like an avenger in the dark. She took a deep breath and tried to calm her violently beating heart. She knew that at this moment she had to be strong because she was carrying the dignity of herself and her child. Dear media friends, I am here today to reveal a truth that breaks my heart. Madeline's voice was firm and powerful, echoing throughout the venue like a huge bell, instantly attracting everyone's attention. She first opened a laptop and the chat records from more than a year ago slowly appeared on the screen. This is the chat record between Nicholas and Lillian from more than a year ago, and the content involves their surrogacy plan. Madeline's voice trembled slightly, but she quickly adjusted herself, and her eyes revealed determination and resoluteness. I love you, but I am afraid of pain and don't want to give birth. Lillian's message was displayed on the screen, and the lines of words were like sharp daggers, piercing the nerves of everyone present. Don't be afraid, you don't have to give birth. Nicholas's cold reply caused an uproar in the audience, and the reporters whispered and talked about it, unable to believe what they saw. Lillian's doubts seemed to be the doubts in everyone's hearts, and everyone was waiting for the truth to be further revealed. I'll find someone to help us give birth. Nicholas's words completely ignited the atmosphere of the venue, and people exclaimed one after another. Okay, Lillian's reply made her image collapse instantly in everyone's hearts. Nicholas's face turned pale as paper. He stood up suddenly and tried to refute. Madeline, this is all a misunderstanding. His voice was trembling and seemed so weak. Madeline sneered, her eyes full of contempt, and ignored his sophistry. She then played a recording. In the recording, Nicholas and Lillian's voices were clearly audible. They were discussing the specific details of surrogacy. Every word was like a heavy bomb, setting off a storm in the conference hall. Nicholas, are you sure there will be no problems with this plan? Lillian's voice was a little worried, like a timid mouse. Don't worry, I have found a surrogacy agency and everything is arranged. Nicholas' voice seemed confident but full of evil. Reporters picked up their pens and quickly recorded this amazing conversation. The flash kept flashing as if to freeze this ugly scene forever. Lillian's face turned pale and she tried to stand up and escape. However, as soon as Lillian stood up in a panic, She was tripped by her high heels and almost fell to the ground. This embarrassing scene caused a sigh from the audience and also shattered her last dignity. Madeline took a deep breath and continued to show the evidence. She switched to a photo of bank transfer details, projected on the big screen, which clearly showed the record of Nicholas frequently transferring huge amounts of company funds into his personal account. Please look, this is the ironclad evidence that Nicholas embezzled company funds. He used the company as his own ATM, squandering it wantonly to satisfy his own selfish desires. Her voice was resounding and every word was like a heavy hammer hitting Nicholas hard. Nicholas' lips trembled and he wanted to defend himself, but he found that his throat was blocked and he couldn't make any sound. His eyes were full of fear and despair, and the sweat on his forehead kept rolling down, wetting the collar of his expensive shirt. Madeline took advantage of the victory and released another surveillance video. In the video, Nicholas secretly met with the top executives of his competitors, and the two of them whispered to each other with sneaky looks. I got this video through special channels, and it proves that Nicholas did not hesitate to use improper means and even committed crimes to suppress his opponents. Her eyes were firm and she did not flinch at all. The reporters in the audience pressed the shutter frantically, and the flashes were connected like dense lightning in the night sky. Reporters from major media stood up and scrambled to ask questions, and the scene was in chaos. Excuse me, Ms. Madeline, how did you find this evidence? Mr. Nicholas, do you have anything to say about this? Ms. Lillian, what is your motivation for participating in the surrogacy program? Nicholas and Lillian were sitting on pins and needles in their seats. Facing the reporters' questions, they were speechless and could only lower their heads to try to avoid the camera. Nicholas's hands were clenched tightly, his knuckles turned white because of the force, his body trembled slightly, anger and regret were intertwined in his heart, but at this time he was powerless to turn the tide. Madeline looked at Daniel in the audience, her eyes full of gratitude and trust. Daniel stood up, walked to Madeline and took the microphone. Dear media friends, I am Daniel. As a friend of Madeline, I have witnessed all the pain she has suffered. I also assisted her in collecting these evidences, just to make the truth known to the world. What Nicholas did not only hurt Madeline, but also violated business ethics and legal norms. His voice was steady and powerful, and every word was like a sword, stabbing Nicholas's vitals. As the news of the press conference spread quickly, social media exploded instantly. Netizens condemned the behavior of Nicholas and Lillian, and all kinds of curses were overwhelming. Nicholas' company's stock price plummeted, and billions of market value evaporated in an instant. The company's board of directors held an emergency meeting and unanimously decided to expel Nicholas and take back all his shares and power. Lillian was not spared either. Her personal social media account was attacked by netizens, and private messages and comments were all accusations and abuses against her. Her original partners terminated their cooperation, and she lost all her financial resources and social support. She instantly went from being the focus of everyone's attention to being a street rat that everyone wanted to beat. Madeline looked at all this with mixed feelings. Once she loved Nicholas deeply and had a beautiful vision of the future. However, now he has become the object of everyone's scorn. But she did not feel a bit happy because she knew that she had paid a painful price on this road of revenge. After the press conference, Madeline and Daniel walked out of the venue hand in hand. The sun shone on them, dispelling the haze of many days. Daniel gently embraced Madeline in his arms and said softly, "Everything is over, you are free. In the days to come, I will always be with you and the children." Madeline leaned in Daniel's arms, tears welling up in her eyes. This time she shed tears of relief and happiness. Chapter 7. A New Beginning. Time flies and in a blink of an eye, Madeline's child is already 1 year old. During this year, Madeline and Daniel's relationship has become deeper and deeper. They have experienced the ups and downs of life together, and each other's company has made their hearts closely dependent. At this time, Nicholas and Lillian's life has fallen into a mess. With the success of Madeline's revenge plan, they were completely exposed to the public and became the target of everyone's shouting. In order to get rid of the responsibility, the two began to blame each other, and the once seemingly solid interest alliance collapsed in an instant. In a small and dim rental house, Nicholas pointed at Lillian angrily and roared, "It's all your fault. If you weren't selfish and didn't want to have children, How could we have come to this point today? His eyes were bloodshot, his hair was messy, and his former vigor had long disappeared. Lillian was not to be outdone and screamed back, "Don't put the blame on me. You swore that you could handle everything, but now you blame me? And that Madeline, if it weren't for her crazy revenge, would we be like this?" Her face was covered with tears and her makeup was a mess, completely losing her former pride. The two quarreled endlessly and neither of them was willing to admit their faults. In order to save a little reputation, Lillian even came up with the idea of live streaming on social media, trying to continue to play the role of a victim. In front of the live camera, she cried and complained about Nicholas's faults, portraying herself as an innocent and poor person implicated. "I really don't know anything, it was Nicholas who deceived me and used me." However, netizens had already seen through their ugly faces, and the comment area was full of ridicule and abuse. "Don't pretend, both of you are not good people. Why didn't you think of today when you did the bad things?" Lillian looked at these comments and collapsed on the ground in despair, and her last glimmer of hope was shattered. Nicholas was drunk in another place, muttering, "It's all their fault, Madeline, that woman is so cruel, and Lillian, this selfish woman, made me lose everything." He blamed his failure entirely on others, but never reflected on his own actions. Madeline returned to the advertising company with Daniel's encouragement. With her outstanding talent and tenacious perseverance, she quickly emerged at work, won several important projects in succession, and won the respect of her colleagues and the appreciation of her leaders. Her life gradually got on track, and the haze of the past had been left far behind her. Daniel also made a new breakthrough in his career. His advertising company saw the wisdom and courage he showed in the confrontation with Nicholas and entrusted him with important tasks. He led the team to successfully plan a number of high-profile advertising activities, and the company's performance was booming. At the child's first birthday party, Madeline and Daniel carefully decorated the venue and invited relatives and friends to celebrate this special day together. Surrounded by people, the child smiled particularly brightly, and that innocent smile seemed to heal all the pain. Madeline looked at the child and then at Daniel beside her, her heart full of happiness and satisfaction. She knew that after so much suffering she finally ushered in her own happy life. Nicholas and Lillian, under the condemnation of society and the sanctions of the law, fell into a difficult situation. Nicholas lost everything and his former wealth, status and glory were gone. He was forced to leave the city and live a life of displacement. Lillian also disappeared from the public eye. It is said that she went to a strange place and tried to start over, but the scandal in the past was like a shadow, always shrouding her. In this city full of opportunities and temptations, Madeline used her courage and wisdom to write a story about revenge and rebirth. She grew from a betrayed weak woman to a strong and independent mother and workplace elite. And Daniel has always been her strongest backing, accompanying her through the trough of life and ushering in a new dawn. In the days to come, they will work together, protect each other, protect this warm home, and meet every challenge and beauty in life.